Hi there, Release Fire here, so I'm going to talk you through how I managed to beat the Ghoul in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a bit of a hideous boss, mainly because there are times when you can only hit it with one character and times when you can only hit it with another character, and kind of working that out is difficult. And then there's other times that magic works and other times where it kind of doesn't, and so it's all a little bit complex. Now, to start with, I changed on into Tifa with the assumption that something similar to the way ghosts respond to revival, to rise, would be the same for the Ghoul. And when I first used it, it didn't seem to necessarily do anything, although it did allow me to get in a lot of hits. But as it turns out, which you'll see a little bit later on in this boss fight, it does kind of bring it down a little bit and allow your melee characters to get in a few good hits. So I kind of found that I used that a fair few times during the fight. However, you can see here, this is a point where I'm no longer able to do melee damage. However, you can see in the background that Aerith's magic projectiles do have an impact, so it's a good idea to switch on over to it anytime you see that the Ghoul is immune to any of the melee attacks. So here you'll be able to see the impacts that Raise has on the Ghoul. So I'm just going to hit it with Tifa as a support character, and that brings it down and makes it so that all my melee attacks can do some damage, and then I can get on in with Cloud and just hit up the Punisher mode and the focus thrust to help it get a little bit closer to the stagger, the all-important stagger. And you can also see Tifa is laying in the damage as well, so it just created a really good opportunity to do some damage and to increase stagger really well. But it will eventually go back to being immune, and then in that situation you've got to try to cycle, rinse, repeat, drop it with Raise in this first phase and bring it down to the ground and get back into doing your damage. And what you're looking to do is get as close to stagger as quickly as possible, so a focus thrust will help you out. But as it turned out for me, I actually took it into the second phase, and then once it goes into the second phase, obviously the stagger resets, but I'd taken off a huge chunk of health. Now when it goes through to that second stage, it's a good idea to use some of the cures on anybody that needs it, and then if you've got any status ailments like silence that I had on Tifa, you can use Echo Mist to cure that and allow you to use magic once again. You also need to be aware of your environment because you could be standing behind barriers that stop you from doing any damage, so it's a good idea to go around that and get in your hits a little bit better. Another thing that I noticed that works well is Aerith's Tempest. So you saw it there, and she's going to use it again now, and it's a similar thing where it kind of like just brings it down and allows me to do a little bit more damage, and allows all of my characters to get in there, especially my melee characters, to get in and just do some big swinging hits. Now you can see I've got a limit break cross slash, which I use at this stage because I just kind of figured I was getting closer to finish it off. And then I also tried Cure on the Ghoul, but I didn't see any kind of impact. But it was kind of overshadowed by Cloud's Limit Breaker, which dominated the cutscene a little bit. I don't think it did any negatives, but it was definitely the cross slash that brought it down to being very close to being finished. The other thing to be aware of is not only can obstructions get in your way, you can also use them to hide from some of the Ghoul's big moves. So if you see it about to launch something and you've got something in your way close by, then try to get behind it. In the later phases, you definitely need to keep an eye on when it's immune and when it's not immune and switch accordingly. And then it's just a case of keeping up the pressure, using your limit breakers, and you should be able to finish it off just about. It's not an easy fight, it's a bit disorienting and there's lots to take into account, but hopefully the video gives you a few tips in terms of how to beat the Ghoul here in Final Fantasy VII Remake. If it does, drop me a like below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already with the links on the left hand side, and hit that bell button if you want to get notifications for all of my videos as they come out. You can check out the rest of my guide to Final Fantasy VII Remake with the links on the right hand side. Leave any comments and I will catch you next time.